Hello, so welcome back. Now, to continue with the earlier concept, I am going to have a discussion regarding classification of projects. Now, as we have defined what is project all about, what is project management all about, what is the life cycle of a project. Now, another important category which we need to understand in this project management is classification of projects. How the projects are being classified. Now, there are different authors and there are different books that have tried to define the classification of the project into different categories. One of the category in the classification can be the projects can be classified into two set of categories, national and international. The projects which are being carried out in a particular country or within the boundary of a country are known as the national projects, and the projects that are being carried outside the boundary of a country are known as an international projects. Another sort of classification is there in context of an industrial projects and development projects. So, the projects that are primarily being carried out for the benefit of an industry or by the industry for their own benefit or for the benefit of a society are known as an industrial projects, while as development projects are usually being undertaken by some government organizations, NGOs for the development of an society, development of an country. So, another sort of activity or another sort of classification can be the projects in basis of an cost. Some projects which are, and in cost category we can define it in three terminologies: high, medium and low. So, the projects which are more than, we can say, 10 to 20 crore are high cost projects. The projects which fall into the category of 5 to 10 crore are medium cost projects, and the projects which fall into the category of 1 to 5 crore are low cost projects. So, these are the classifications which are being given by different authors in different segments. So, in our discussion we may be exploring some more classifications. The classification in terms of an time, the classification in terms of an ownership, the classification in terms of an risk. So, let us first consider classification in terms of an ownership. Now, there are different types of ownerships currently we are having. It can be a sole proprietorship, it can be a partnership, it can be a public limited, it can be a private limited, it can be a cooperative. So, these are various ownerships which are currently operating in the country, and the projects that are being taken care or handled under these organizations or under these societies are being carried out into their domains respectively. There may be projects which are being specifically carried out by cooperatives, there may be projects which are specifically being done by the private organizations. So, they are being defined under the category of ownership. The second category which we can define is in terms of an time. Now, for time, again the project classified on the basis of tenure, they can be long duration, medium duration or we can say low duration. The low duration projects are usually taken out for the period of 1 to 5 years. Second is the medium term duration, the projects which are being carried out in the tenure of 5 to 10 years. And the long duration projects are the projects which are being carried out beyond 10-year period. These are usually the development projects also, which is having an high, or we can say the timeline is very lengthy in the development projects or the long-term projects. Another sort of classification is in terms of an investment, which I have already defined, or in terms of a cost. High investment projects, medium investment projects, or low investment projects. Now, my focus of discussion is the classification on the basis of risk. On the basis of risk, we define projects into different categories. Now, these categories are greenfield project, brownfield project, divestment project, and modernization projects. Greenfield, brownfield, divestment, modernization, or replacement projects. So, one by one I am taking out all these projects. First of all, let us come to greenfield projects. Now, what are greenfield projects? Greenfield projects are those projects which are new in nature. When any organization, whether national or international level, whether in terms of a time, whether in terms of a cost, whether in terms of an categories, whether in terms of an ownership, any sort of organization is going to take a project at new front, when they are going to execute some new concept, when they are going to execute some new development, then we call, or we fall these projects into the category of greenfield projects. For example, Chandrayaan-3, it was a new project which was being taken by ISRO. Now, another mission which is being taken out by the ISRO is, there may be some other companies, there may be some other organization or country which, there may be some other countries which have gone to the moon mission, but this is the first country which have done the mission on the South Pole. So, that is why it is called as new project or greenfield project. It is not new to go on the moon, but to go on the South Pole of a moon was a new project. Or we can say, let us say, if any company is launching some set of a new iPhone or phone or a television or any sort of application into a new market which was not there previously, we will categorize them as a greenfield project. There are many entrepreneurs which are currently working in the country and developing or focusing on some new ventures. So, we take them into the consideration of greenfield projects. The second category is brownfield projects. When we are focused on the existing set of product line or service line, then we call, or we categorize them in context to the brownfield project. I will be having a detailed discussion of these brownfield projects, but before this, let me go to the another two projects also, two categories of risk also. The third one was divestment project. Now, divestment project is that we are not going to invest in the entire set of chains which we are having. There may be n number of product lines which a company is operating. So, company is trying to close the multiple set of activities and going to focus on and getting out the cost of entire these activities into one project or two projects. So, they are closing the other projects and focusing on one or two projects. So, we call such activities as an divestment project. Another classification is on the basis of a replacement project. So, replacement project is that when the company is entirely shutting out from the one process and going to begin out the new set of process, or using the existing resources into the new sort of resource, new set of process. So, there is very minute difference between, we can say, divestment and replacement. In divestment, we may have 4 or 5 product lines and we are closing 2 to 3 product lines and focusing on 1 or 2. But in replacement project, we are entirely closing the entire setup which we are having and using these resources in some new sort of project, or expanding some new venture into the another market. So we call such projects as an divestment projects, and the classification is on the basis of an risk. Now let's come back to the brownfield projects. Now in brownfield projects we have different categories again. Now in this brownfield projects we can further categorize the projects into different associations or classifications. These are expansion projects, integration projects and diversification projects. Expansion, integration and diversification. This integration is usually in the form of a vertical integration, but we call the three categories of brownfield project as an expansion project, integration project and diversification project. Now expansion project, when an company is going to expand its current line of business. For example, there is a manufacturing company who is manufacturing motorbikes. Now they are manufacturing the motorbikes, for example 20 to 30,000 motorbikes in a month. Now they are expanding their volume and they are going to increase the volume by 1 lakh motorcycles in a month. So this sort of project is known as an expansion project, and it is the existing product line which they are working on. That's why they fall in the category of brownfield projects. So in brownfield we have three categories: expansion, integration and diversification. And in expansion we are expanding in terms of an volume, we are expanding in terms of an product lines, we are expanding in terms of an new markets, we are expanding in terms of an geographical locations. So we may be expanding in n sort of an activities. For example, there is a company, biscuit company, which is manufacturing a biscuit and is providing the biscuit in South India or South region of an world also. Now they are expanding their business in North, East, West region of an country or world also. So we call such expansion as an we call such extension or expansion into the expansion projects or the category of an expansion project. Another category in this is integration project. Now again this integration falls into the category of two elements. One is downward integration, another is upward integration. Now to define this downward and upward integration, let me take an example of a company which is producing a juice, a mango juice. For example, there is a company, XYZ company, which is producing a mango juice. Now they need raw materials in terms of a mango extract or pulp extract and other components. Let's say pulp extract is the major component that they are requiring to produce a juice. Now to produce this juice, they need this extract and they get this extract from company Y. Now in this kind of integration project, the company is not going to take this pulp from company Y. They are going to have an expansion. They are going to have their own mango orchard where they are going to have an pulp, and they extract this pulp and use this as a raw material for their own product. So they are going for the downward integration, or we can say backward integration. Another integration is known as an upward integration. This may be a vice versa, which I have already spoken. There is a company or there is an organization or there is an industry which is having an mango orchard, an expanded mango orchard. Now they want to start up a business of juices, mango juices. Now they are having the extract. Now they can start the business because they are having the raw material. So they are coming to the integration, upper integration. That's why it's called upward integration, because they are using the extract for the mango juices. So this is the sort of integration that can happen. And in both the cases, company is somehow involved in the existing business. In one case, it was a company which was producing a juice. In another case, it was an organization which was having the mango orchard. So both were having their businesses already. Now they want to expand their business. One is doing it in the form of an upward integration, another is doing it in the form of an backward integration. This is the aspect of integration projects. So first one was in context to the brownfield project. First one was expansion project, second one was integration. And in this integration, we classified it into two categories. One is backward integration, another is upward integration. Now the third sort of category which we are having in the brownfield is diversification. Diversification is that the company wants to work into different product lines or the service lines which they are having, or they want to expand their business in different service lines or different categories or different product lines. Now how they are going to do it? They are going to do it in two ways. So we are going to define, or we are going to categorize this diversification again into two categories. One is known as concentric diversification, another is known as conglomerate diversification. So concentric diversification projects and conglomerate diversification projects, these are again two categories of diversification. So what are these categories? Now first of all, let's focus on concentric diversification. Concentric diversification is that company is focusing on its existing product or existing product line. So they are using their existing product line, and with this existing product line they are developing some byproduct. For example, there is a company which is in the automobile manufacturing. So they are using that technology for the production of a motorcycle, or there is a company which is there in the production of a motorcycle. They are using that technology or their resources for production of a bicycle. So they are expanding in terms of a similar product line. That is, they were there in the automobile, they are there in the automobile for their expansion also. For example, there may be an electronics company which is producing televisions. Now they are also producing the laptops, or they are producing the video cams, or they are producing some digital devices in terms of electronic mediums. So they are expanding their existing line of business. This sort of expansion is known as concentric expansion, a concentric diversification. Now another category in this diversification was conglomerate diversification. Now under this category, the company want to expand their existing line of business but in altogether different category. For example, there is a company who is producing a motorcycle. Now simultaneously they want to establish their business in terms of developing a pen, in terms of developing some electronic devices. So they are diversifying from their existing product line. They are diversifying from their current product line. That's why this sort of diversification is known as conglomerate diversification. So this is the concept of diversification in context to the concentric and conglomerate. So these are the classifications which are based on the basis of risk. So we try to explore the classifications of projects in terms of different categories. These categories was classification on the basis of ownership, public, private, cooperative, or private ownership, or we can say single ownership or partnership firms. So this was one category. Another category was on the basis of time. It can be long duration project, medium duration project, or low duration projects. Another category was on the basis of investment, high investment project, medium investment project, low investment project. Another category was on the basis of nation or international projects. Another category was on the basis of industrial development, or we can say industrial projects or development projects. Another category we tried to understand was on the basis of risk. Now there can be the projects again in the categories of non-industrial or industrial projects. There can be the categories in context to the technology also, high-ended technology, low-ended technology, or medium-term technology. So these are various classifications which we are having while understanding the project classifications. So, to conclude this, today we try to understand what are the various classifications of projects in terms of ownership, in terms of time, in terms of investment, in terms of risk, in terms of production, whether industrial production or non-industrial production, whether for the development of a nation or whether for the development of an industry, or we try to understand it in the form of an technology also, high-end technology, medium-term technology or low-end technology. So, we try to understand it in the terms of an risk also, where we explore the entire risk into different categories, and these categories were where we try to understand it in terms of different categories, where these categories were greenfield project, brownfield project, divestment project and modernization projects. And in terms of greenfield, these are totally new projects, brownfield working on the existing product line, divestment when we are closing some product line and focusing on few, and replacement projects, or we can say modernization project when we are changing some technology or replacing the existing technology with some new technology. So, that is known as an replacement project. And in brownfield project, we try to categorize into different elements. These elements were one was expansion, another one was integration, and third one was diversification. And in context to the integration, we were having upward integration, backward integration. In context to the diversification, we were having concentric diversification and conglomerate diversification. So, this is the concept of classification of project. Now, after understanding the classification of project, let us explore another concept, critical concept in the project management, which is project management process. Now, in this entire project management process, we are having different flows which we need to undertake while doing a particular project. The various segments that are being incorporated in this project management process are project feasibility document, then first of all prima facie screening, then project feasibility document, feasibility in terms of technical feasibility, market feasibility, financial feasibility, then its implementation, then its execution, then the closure of a project. So, these are all the flows which are there in a project management process. Now, in order to understand this project management process, the first and the foremost category is project identification, then followed by prima facie screening or project feasibility, then with the technical feasibility and economic feasibility, or we can say market feasibility, then the financial feasibility, then implementation, termination phase and the audit phase. These are again the categories. These can also be another way of defining the entire project management process. Now, one foremost important thing which I need to focus in this project management process is that during these entire phases, we may accept or reject the project till the definition of all the feasibilities. For example, the first stage was project identification phase. So, if I have not identified the project, I can reject the project. Then there is a prima facie screening, where we sort out different projects and choose one of the best project. If I am not agreed, I can again reject it and go back. Then there is technical feasibility. If I have not done it correctly, I can again go back. Then there is a market feasibility. If it is not appropriate, then I can again go back. Then I find out the financial feasibility. If it is not appropriate, I will try to solve it or go back to the previous identification of the phase. But after defining all these things and now reaching to the implementation stage, on the execution stage, we cannot go back at the implementation and execution stage, because we have defined all the categories above. So, I have an freeness to change all these categories at above stages, but I cannot change it during the implementation stage or after the implementation stage, and finally, it is totally not possible at the time of termination phase. And at the termination phase, we definitely make a feedback out of it and try to understand that whether we have done project in the proper manner or not. This is the process of project management. Now, we will be taking out this process one by one in the next session. Thank you.